This video will present to you another framework to support you with technology integration in the classroom. It will look at Gagne's 9 events of instruction as a means of supporting technology integration in schools. This video will achieve the learning outcome of examining how digital tools can enhance your teaching, frameworks to plan technology integration in schools. So the instructional design approach, 9 instructional events, was developed by Robert Gagne in 1965, and he created a systematic approach to provide guidance on how to teach. This was based on cognitive learning theories and implies that students learn in a linear way. However, we know that this is often not the case, and using technology provides opportunities to extend the events to allow for multimodal learning, peer feedback, self-feedback, co-constructions and digital skills. This example will take you through each of the 9 events of instruction and provide you with examples of how technology can support these. The first event of instruction is gaining attention. The second is presenting learning outcomes. The third is presenting recall. The fourth is presenting content. The fifth is providing guidance. The sixth is eliciting performance. The 7th is providing feedback, the 8th is assessing performance, and the 9th is enhancing retention. We will look at these each in more detail in the context of achieving the learning outcome. By the end of this lesson, the student will be able to identify the key elements of a well-structured story and apply the writing process to create their own story. Instruction. So we will look at the first event of instruction. So gaining attention is the first step in creating an effective way of capturing the learner's attention. So you can imagine in a class, there's a lot going on. Some children have issues with attention. Providing a clear and interesting way of capturing their attention is really, really important. This can be achieved through a variety of stimuli that triggers their interest and motivates them to engage with the learning material. So an example of which you can use technology to do this would be maybe a multimedia prompt, such as a short story or an animated story starter. And this might present a really well-written story. And then you might also use another example of a poorly written story. This contrast can immediately grab the learner's attention and allow for further discussion on the elements of good writing. Progress to the next stage of the 9 events of instruction, which is presenting the learning outcomes. So this basically involves clearly stating the learning objectives at the start of the lesson, and this will illustrate to the learners what they need to know by the end of the lesson, what's expected of them, and it provides a clear focus and helps them to understand the purpose of the instruction. So this will often be stated, but it also might have visual cues such as PowerPoint, slide or a whiteboard where the learning outcome is always visible to the students. The next event of instruction is stimulating recall. So this is where we connect the learning to students' prior knowledge and experiences. And this allows us to create meaningful connections and integrate new information more effectively. So here you can use technology like Padlet to allow children to give examples of stories that they thought were good and were not so good and explain why. The collaborative activity allows students to share their experiences and perspectives. Also, because all children will contribute to the Padlet wall, it provides an inclusive learning approach. Everybody participates and it creates a good foundation for learning. New learning outcomes are achieved, so it allows opportunities for digital collaboration, digital skills. If you ask children to explain the posts that they put up, it allows oral language development and also further vocabulary development. So once you've related this to their prior experience of stories and what worked and what didn't, then you can start presenting the content to the students. And this is basically presenting the content in a structured and engaging way. So it's direct teaching. It could involve, you giving a presentation, providing a video, maybe with captions, to ensure all learners are included. If you're doing your own class, maybe there might be captions, so students that might have difficulty with oral language or listening, or may not be native speakers of your language, can easily follow the learning. Also using technology to create an interactive tutorial such as Edpuzzle or Loom that allows them maybe to answer questions or give examples, allows learners to engage with content at their own pace and just check their understanding along the way. Making these questionnaires anonymous also sometimes might provide the students with more confidence to participate. And I suppose how technology enhances the learning is it provides a more inclusive approach to learning, which everybody can participate in, and also more self-paced approaches to learning. Once we presented the content, then it's time to guide the learners through the learner experience. So this provides examples or cues to support the understanding and retention. So now you've given the content, you want to make sure the learners understand it and are able to apply it. So this helps learners navigate new material and develop learning strategies. So here you might use technology such as Google Docs or Microsoft Word to provide examples of writing. Here you might have embedded comments, showing them a good opening section of a story, a good middle or an end, or area that might be improved. Also, you might create a template that you guide students through brainstorming. So, different stages, brainstorm a good start, middle and end, draft your first draft, share with someone else to edit it and revise it. Other ideas might be working with students to create maybe a technology-based rubric of how you might assess these examples of good writing. So the students might work with you to create a rubric of what, based on the Padlet wall, what's a good piece of writing, what's a bad piece of writing, how you recognise it, and they might apply these to the examples and do their own annotations within Word and Excel. I suppose new learning outcomes, it achieves independent learning, it allows them to do self-assessment, and it also creates empathy, when people might be poor writers or good writers, that they might understand where they're coming from and things like that. So it develops new skills. The next stage, once you're confident the students have grasped the learning, is to provide opportunities for practice. This is really important in terms of solidifying the learning. So students might use technology to write a story using Google Docs or maybe Microsoft Word online, and practicing each stage of the writing process. You can use maybe Padlet or some sort of collaborative board technology to support storyboarding templates, and this could also be part of a class book using Book Creator. I suppose there's several new learning outcomes that might be developed, fostering creativity and development of digital skills such as content creation. Once you've elicited performance, then it's time to provide feedback to the learners, and this can be done through, the purpose of this is to provide feedback in terms of if they're being successful or not in their learning. It's important that feedback is timely, specific, and focused on helping learners to improve their performance. So if they're using Google Docs or Microsoft Word, you can use commenting features. If you prefer to provide more inclusive approaches, you can provide voice feedback. Google Docs allows this, or Kaizenna. Also, if you want students to participate in the feedback process themselves, you can use peer grade, where students might peer review each other's work and give each other's feedback, and this allows for personalised and targeted feedback. In addition to the learning outcome outlined, there's opportunities to develop skills in peer and self-assessment, independent learning, and also empathy, understanding, how feedback is structured from different people and how it impacts someone's feelings about the learning. Once they've gotten feedback, then it's time to assess the overall performance of the learner. So this is evaluating whether they achieve the learning outcomes or not, and their overall performance. and it should be aligned with the learning objectives. And again, something similar, using rubrics in Google Classroom or Microsoft Teams to determine whether they have followed the learning process. And this provides clear, consistent guidelines, that map to the learning outcomes. Also, replicating earlier phases where feedback was given on an informative basis, or you might have developed rubrics for self-assessment could be used here. And the last stage then is enhancing retention. So you want to provide opportunities for them to apply their learning in new contexts, so they can see how it can be transferred to a variety of different areas. So maybe creating a digital portfolio where they reflect on the writing process and maybe share their final pieces. If you had a class book that might be published and shared with parents. Again, digital technologies such as Book Creator can be used to do this. It also allows portfolios and Book Creator or Google Sites portfolios provide opportunities for you to share the students' learning with their parents and other stakeholders and disseminate it. Additional learning outcomes and skills developed will be digital content creation, where they create, digital content in story-based format, editing and refining and drafting, and also project management. So that's a short overview of the Gagne's 9 instructional events and how they can be applied to technology integration. You're more than welcome to take this and take a lesson and look at how you can follow those 9 events and where technology might be of the most benefit. There's also some readings. More contemporary reading is Gagne's 9 instructional events applied to AI that you're more than welcome to review at the end of this lesson.